to bring in now our guest for this hour, trial attorney Michael Jaafar. And Michael, I just talked about the confusion that I think is possible because there's so many players, so many really convoluted facts about who did what, why. If you are the state and you're starting with your opening statement, how do you address that to make sure from the get-go the jury understands what this case is about and that it's Adelson who should be held criminally responsible?
I mean, I would focus on the relationship and the coincidence of the fact that here is this dentist talking to these people who eventually admitted to murdering this law professor, and so it just doesn't fit. I know dentists. If I saw a dentist that I knew talking to somebody who was a complete thug, deadbeat, who eventually goes on and murders somebody, it would be suspicious to me. And so if I was the state, I would assume that the jurors would also find it to be bizarre, puzzling, and they would, because this is a case about connecting dots, right? There's no one who's saying that Mr. Adelson pulled the trigger. What the state is going to be saying, and what everybody's theory is, that he's the one who bribed them and coerced them to do it. He had the motive to do it, and they didn't have the motive to do it, and they did it in a very, very, tragic way. So it's about connecting the dots. So I would assume the state would come in and begin with the dots, and they would connect the dots in their opening statements and tell the jurors, hey, we will show you how these dots connect.
You know, Michael, it's interesting you say that because I wrote down some of the questions that have been asked of the jurors. Do you have any strong feelings about dentists? That was one of the questions. Another one, do you feel people who have a lot of money are treated better by our court system than other people? And I thought that was interesting as well. I think that's a very real issue here, and it goes to what you're talking about. The fact that this dentist is conferring with and talking with and about it below his station in life. And I think that's a bias that, as a defense attorney, you've got to look for and be careful of.
Absolutely, because a lot of the people in the jury, some of them might be making, 40 grand a year, 50 grand a year. They see this dentist and they see the team of attorneys. He's got really good attorneys, by the way, high-powered attorneys. He's obviously, this is a Hail Mary, he's saving his life. So they see that, they're gonna think some kind of way about it. Me as an attorney, some of the guys I grew up with, I really wouldn't, hang out with them anymore, not because they're criminals, but we've just gone in different paths. And so if someone growing up with me would see me, going out to dinner with somebody who, had been in jail, they would think, well, why is Michael Jaafar having dinner with that person? So the state is going to want the jurors to make that connection, that here is this well-to-do dentist, communicating with people who they're not just, employees at a fast food restaurant. These are murderers. Right? He had no business. He didn't go to school with them. He didn't go to college with them. They're not his colleagues. Why was he with them? So I do agree with you, Michael.
Yeah, gangsters and contract killers. What's he doing? Having around, having dinner, and even dating someone who was involved in that world. All right, Michael, stand by because I want to change gears right now. Judge, I want to mention something to you that I've been noticing about this defendant. We always talk about demeanor in the courtroom. I think she's very engaged in this case, and I think engaged in a good way.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, and she's taking notes sometimes, and she's watching, so I agree.
All right, let's bring in our guest quickly. Still with us, trial attorney Michael Jaafar. And Michael, okay, so you heard the testimony there on direct. There was no terminal illness. We know that's important, although I will say back pain and stomach and gastric issues, that can make you feel a certain kind of way for sure. No suicidal ideation as far as the doctor's reports that she reviewed. No terminal illness, we knew that. No record of needing to crush pills. And that's the one that I'll focus on because, we know that a big part of this is that these crushed pills were found. The defendant told the police, amongst the many things she told them, that this victim needed that. She couldn't take pills any other way. And I tried to think, is that something? And I know one of my children had that, and that was something we reported to the doctor to see if there was some other way to get the medication. So the fact that it wasn't in the records, I think, is fairly important. Your thoughts?
I agree with you, and I agree with you so much that I think that the defense attorneys are going to have no choice but to try to shred her on cross-examination because, A, how are you going to make that conclusion? The woman was sick; she needed a caretaker, so that's a big conclusion. Because it's part of the record, it has to be debated now. Because think about it. Let's say it's not debated and it's part of the record, and she did not have to crush pills, but she died of lethal it's a big one. So the defense attorneys are going to have to not only shred her on cross-examination, because these state witnesses, right, they I'm going to be lambasted for saying this, but they follow the party line a lot of the times. So they'll have to shred her on cross-examination, and they'll have to combat her when they build their case with their own experts.
And I think as we're watching the demeanor that you pointed out and we're hearing evidence of there was no record she had to crush pills, more and more I think this defendant may end up testifying in this case.
I think she has to.
I do too. I'm getting there too. All right, stand by.